Hi there, today we're going to work on oh, sorry about that, it was in the way. Anyway, hey, Tim here. Today we're going to work on a lamp. Now this is a lamp that's actually been with us about 35 years. Actually, it was a wedding present that we got. And it's really been a great lamp for us, but it's starting to show some age. It has some tarnishing going on in the brass here. We are going to rewire the lamp as well, probably going to work on the socket as well. Ultimately, we'll replace the shade, but we won't do that in today's show. But anyway, we're going to really make this a really nice lamp that's going to last for a long, long time. So why don't you join us here on Neighbor Tim and let's see how we fix the lamp. Now, before we get started, there's really some things that we're going to have, some tools that we'll have to have in order to help us through this process. We're going to need a wire cutter, so make sure you get a wire cutter. Probably going to need a straight screwdriver as well as a Phillips screwdriver. Always good to have some electrical tape on hand, so we'll probably need that. Probably need the utility knife. In fact, I know we'll need the utility knife. Going to need some 18-2 wire. Now, I got this 18-2 wire at our local Do It Best. You can buy it by the foot. There's always people there to help you at your local hardware store, but they'll cut it to length, whatever you need. I ended up getting about 10 feet because I actually want this cord to be a little bit longer than the one that we have right now. And of course, I'm going to need some paint because I'm actually going to paint this. So I went ahead and went with Rust-Oleum. I like it. It's a really good quality paint. Then of course, I've got some plugs. All right, now it's time to start taking the light apart itself. Now what you'll want to do is that you're going to see there's probably a little nut here. You could, if it gets pretty tight, you could use a very thin wrench or something like that to try to loosen it. Just so happens that this one's not loose or not tight, so I can loosen it by hand. Now it's probably going to twist my wire inside. I really don't care about that because I am going to ultimately take that wire apart. Another rule of life, always remember, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. In this case, yeah, I'm going to the left. Left is counterclockwise, whereas right is clockwise. So go lefty-loosey. And if you see here, as I'm twisting it, it is coming apart right in here. So we'll just continue to do that till it comes apart. Now in this case, there's this long piece of all thread here that goes all the way down to the base here, and it fastens in here to the base. So as I continue to twist that, you could hear or you could feel where it was coming loose down here. Ultimately, and that's fine. You'll also see how my wire is twisted. Don't worry about that. I'm going to cut the wire right here. Now once I snip that, you can see it came right apart. You know, I'm not going to use this wire anymore, so we'll be fine. But now I've got the top separated from the base, and I'll go ahead and set this off to the side, and you'll see where I'll just be able to pull that wire right out like that. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and paint the base. Now, if you can see, I don't know if you can really see on the inside, almost looks like a horn, doesn't it? Yeah. Doesn't sound like a horn though. But anyway, it's nice and heavy. It's actually a very heavy base, so it does a really nice job of making sure that my lamp is stable. Now I've wiped it down, cleaned it, and as I said earlier, just used a rag to take care of that. Actually, an old t-shirt of mine. They work wonderful in the shop, by the way, old t-shirts. Don't use old underwear. That's a little weird. Don't do that. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Once you're ready to paint, remember, the key is to go with several thin layers, not one big thick layer, because if you do that, you're start going to have running, especially in these areas where gravity is probably not helping you out. That gravity is pulling that paint down. So several thin layers, and just like that, and put it away just to, get about 12 inches away, and you'll see that it coats really nice. Now I'm going to go ahead and use the socket from the old light. So, here's that all thread that I talked about earlier. Now what you really have to do, if you'll see here, there's a lot of ridges in here. It sort of gets crimped in there. And so a lot of times it's going to be able to slide right out. I had to pry it a little bit just to free it up a little bit, but you're going to see it comes right apart there. So I'm just going to put that off to the side. Then this entire mechanism comes out, the actual socket itself. So you're always going to look at the quality of the inside of your socket just to see if it's in good shape, if there's any corrosion or wear or tear. And I think it looks pretty good. I think it's a pretty clean socket. We're going to go ahead and use that. You see the wire? You've got the two wires side by side. What I'm going to do is take my utility knife and actually split it there. And usually I'll just put it on the table like what you have here, push my utility knife through, pull it through. There, we've got a split wire. And so remember I said it was an 18-2. Look at your wire cutter here. It's got a series of numbers here, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Those are the size of the wire that's inside. And so this is going to be an 18 size wire. So what I do is I'm going to stick it into the 18 slot, go like this, twist around a little bit, pull, and there, I've got a nice clean wire. I'm going to go ahead and do that to the rest of the ends because I'm going to need that on the opposite end as well. We've cut the wires and we have everything ready to go. I've already spun these wires or twisted the wires, but now I've got to make this good and strong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to solder both of these ends. The very first thing I do is I use this paste flux or this soldering flux. You know, here's the lid for it. There's a lot of different kinds. But what it does is it gives a good adherence of the lead that I'm going to be using, or the soldering lead, to the copper wire itself. But you simply put the soldering iron here on the bottom of the wire and let that wire get nice and warm. You'll see it's going to start bubbling here, start smoking a little bit. And once I get it warm enough, then I'm just going to put a little bit of solder on there, and look at that. I get a nice solid connection for that wire. All right, well, this is my base. Boy, it really turned out nice and shiny, went with the black and everything. I think it really went well. But now what I have to do is I've got to feed the cord through the base. So you'll see here, the cord's going to go through this hole that's already set, and you can see it there. It'll come out of the base, then it's going to go up through the hole and come out of this all thread. But now I've got to make the connection to both the socket as well as the plug itself. And so I'm going to take a needle nose and I'm going to bend this a little bit just like this, so I get a good hook. And you'll see that I've got a hook there, and I'm going to do the same thing to all 4 wires. Before you do something like this, just tie a little knot in there, and I'll tell you what, it's going to save you problems way down in the end. Now what you want to do is, remember I said lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, or righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Righty is clockwise, lefty is counterclockwise. And I make those hooks because I want that hook, you see that hook there? I want it to basically go into or underneath that screw, so when I turn the screw that way, that hook is just going to fit really nice in there. Now sometimes it'll stick out like that. I'll simply just use my needle nose pliers, push it in like that, and get it nice and tight, and it's ready to tighten. Well, I've got the plug-in completed, went ahead and put the cap on there like that, got everything fastened down. Now we're ready to go to the socket end. All right, I've run the wire through the base. I've got everything situated as far as all my spacers and washers. I made some good solid connections, you know, with the hook going on the clockwise, so it wraps around with that. I've made the knot. I also did a knot in my wire again. Not as necessary on this end because it doesn't get as much stress, but I still like the extra strength that it gives. Now I'm ready to go ahead and get this situated and put the cap on and get ready to put a bulb in and see if this lights up. I've probably rewired, I don't know, 10 or 15 or maybe even 20 lamps in my lifetime, you know, just over time for whatever reason. And you think through the process, you want to make sure your connections are good in both the socket and in the plug itself. But, you know, even though that I've done this that many times, you still always wonder, is it going to work? I mean, I've gone through the process. I think I've made all the right connections, but you always wonder, is it going to work? Let's give it a try. All right, makes me happy. You put the lamp on here like this, there's the fastener, and look here, I've got now a beautiful light. I'm glad we really got to work on this lamp together. It just turned out very nice. Don't be scared to try something yourself. If you have any questions, of course, you know, ask me there in the comments section. But really enjoyed doing this. So happy tinkering. This is Tim from Ask Neighbor Tim.